There we go. Like my shirt?
Yes. For the band, right?
Yep, it was a fun show.
Not for the organ?
No. I wear that over here.
Oh, that was cute.
Oh, thank you. I can be charming and what's the word I'm looking for? Clever. Charming and clever at times.
That you had to think of the word clever is funny.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Well played.
I didn't play that way. I just couldn't think of it.
I know. That's why it was even funnier.
Should we get started?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to Ask the Stripper, Season 2, Episode 3, recording on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, Molly.
Happy Hump Day. Sorry,
so
I'm just
most people,
adjusting
Wednesday's like the middle of the week. What's your hump day? What's your middle of the week day?
I feel like Saturday night, because yeah, that's sometimes like midway through my work week, and that's when I'm like exhausted and like over it.
So like Tuesday, Wednesdays kind of, or Wednesday, Thursdays kind of your weekend?
Yeah, kind of. I've been working a lot of Wednesday nights, but yeah, I'd say Monday, Tuesday are like my Saturday, Sunday, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Just curious how people live their lives.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're here to ask and answer questions. So you had a question last week that you had for people, and you want to read some responses.
I actually wanted to like start incorporating, questions that I ask to, people and see kind of what their feedback was. And the question that came to me last week was, do you feel guilty when you go to the strip club? And I feel like that's a really interesting topic, because I still feel guilty when I go to the strip club. That's some deep ass conditioning, like I'm pretty, what's it called? I used the word last week, like immune, like I built up an immunity to like nudity and all that, but like I definitely still have times and moments of like, should I be ashamed? And then I'm like, hell no, why would you be fucking ashamed? But then the other little, conditioned part of me is like, you should feel ashamed, like you're doing something wrong. But my logic says, actually, you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing your job and you have a great fun job that's really enjoyable. So I was curious if other people were experiencing this as patrons. So yeah, let's see some of the answers I got. I got some really good answers. Let me scroll through what I got. Oh, this one just says no, exclamation point with an angel. And I feel the need to point this one out because I feel like it'd be like it's not a long answer, like an in-depth answer, but it's who said it that is really important to me. The woman who said this is someone that I served in the Young Women's with in the presidency, like as adults. Someone that I like was probably one of my only friends really at that time, like in my ward, because she was around my age and we had a lot of common interests. And so we became friends and we've stayed friends. And her husband came to visit me once at the club. Actually, they might have come a couple times, but it was really nice to see them. And so it was like really cool to me that she responded. And it was even better to me that she was like, no, I do not feel guilty.
Are they still active now?
No, they're not active. And I don't think they're together anymore either. But yeah. I was happy that she messaged and she said that. It was meaningful to me, I guess, in the whole topic I'm talking about. Like, that it was her who said that. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
And this one says, only when I look at my bank account the next day is the only time that he feels guilty, or she. I can't tell right now. But I have buyer's remorse like pretty consistently. I feel, I mean, since we're talking about guilt, I feel extreme guilt about purchasing anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's something rooted there for me that like feels bad when I spend money.
I have
so I
that
get
too,
that.
except when I'm buying snacks. You know, I love snacks, as we all know. I have
No shame about the snacks.
no shame about the snacks, but you know, I buy a T-shirt for $40 at a concert. I'm like, did I need that?
Yeah, I kind of think a lot of people are that way with food or snacks. Because I don't feel like it's more like when you see accumulatively what you spent on that you're like, dear God. But yeah, the strip club is unique in that like it is a really expensive place and there is drinking involved and there is an ATM and there is all sorts of hyper arousal going on. And so it's definitely somewhere I have overspent and I understand other people overspend. And I just feel like maybe I think we touched on this briefly last week. Just have a plan of like what you want to spend and try to stick to it and try not to overdrink until you're not using your logic and common sense, you know, like because then you might ruin what could have been a really fun night and could be kind of a regular activity for you that you consistently enjoy and find pleasure in. But just like anything, if you overdo it, like it's not going to be that for you anymore. It's going to be this place that you spent all this money and you feel all the shame about.
Exactly.
But yeah, and kind of like I said, I think I was talking about this somewhat last week about just moderation and that like you can overdo it with anything. You can overdo it with chocolate, you can overdo it with caffeine, you can overdo it with water. Like it doesn't mean that thing is inherently bad. It just means you need to have boundaries with how you use that thing, you know?
Exactly. I needed to
Same with
overdo
strip
it with
clubs.
water, so I level out. I don't drink
You
water
what?
at all. I hardly ever drink water, so I need to overdo it on water to
Do you
equalize
have water
myself.
with you right now? Take a sip.
No, I have a Diet Coke.
That's just as good. Staying hydrated. All right. Let me see some more answers. I used to, but not anymore because I got to know a few of the gals. I think that's really good and really true that like the more you humanize the whole experience, I think the less guilt you're going to feel. Because at the end of the day, like they're all just people doing a job and like getting to know them, I think, and the types of people they are, I think can really like change your perception of the experience you're having and kind of reduce that shame and that you are humanizing them so it doesn't feel like such a like objectification. You're like having a genuine connection. I had a second part to that. I forgot, I lost it. But
Might come back to you.
But yeah, just that getting to know the dancers, I think, can increase the overall fun of the, experience. And yeah, like you don't feel shameful about it. You feel good about it. I'm not talking very pretty today.
It's okay.
But yeah. And then let's see what else we got. Not internally, let me read this. Not internally morally, but I do turn off Find My Friends and I don't tell anyone. I loved that answer. because I think it's more realistic. Like when I talked about being open about like being friends with sex workers online and how that can like normalize, not, that's not the right word, I guess, yeah, like normalize that this is a part of things that are really happening. But that like, but that he still feels shame about it, other people knowing. Like he doesn't feel that personally, he feels that other people would judge him, and so feels the need to do the, you know, hide my location and don't tell my friend, what'd you do last night? Nothing.
I went out somewhere.
Or, you know, I stayed in and I watched Netflix. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And the next person said, I don't. Dancers deserve support for their work. Thank you. Hell nah. And my partner knows it too. I love that. Because if you're gonna share your life with someone and they're gonna be your partner, they probably should, you know what you're up to. Am I wrong?
No, no, because the last time I'm like, I kind of feel like going and visiting Molly at work, and she's like, do you really think you should? So like, yeah, even when I was trying to be open, she was throwing some shame at me.
Yeah.
But personally, I'm going to see a friend at work. It's, you know,
Yeah.
so I have no shame in it.
I love that you talked to her about it though. I think that's really good and cool. But I also get and understand like not having a relationship that has that openness, or, you know, feeling shame about it or feeling, you know, any type of way. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
This one says, not at all. I do make sure I have money to tip though, otherwise why even go? And I know that person, and he does. He really is like one of those people who I didn't ever have to break it down for, or like didn't, you know, I think he's just, maybe he's been around the scene, I don't know, but he really gets the whole exchange and is really like generous. Let's see.
Awesome.
Never love exotic dancing. That's a woman. Depends how much I spend and how long I've been there. And yeah, I think that goes back to moderation, that like if you're spending all day every day at the strip club, which like I think I know people like that, and I feel like it's a little different for them, because at that point sometimes this has become like their cheers, their hangout, their community hangout. This is where their friends are. This is something they've been doing for years. And I feel like that's probably fine. They've made that choice for themselves, and however they keep the balance in their life, they keep that. But I definitely see people who come in and overdo it and, you know, aren't having a good time. And there's of course going to be, I mean, they're having a good time in the moment, but they're not having a good time thinking about it the next day. Someone just said yes, and I know this person too, and that did kind of surprise me. But I guess I don't see them a lot there, which makes sense if they do feel some shame. Another person said, oh, I love this person. Nope, but younger me definitely would have. And I know that younger me would not have even gone into a strip club. That's not true. I totally lied. I remember being like 18 and there was a club in Ogden, Northern Exposure, and I was looking for a job at the time, and I walked in and I was like, hey, do you have to be 21 to work here? And they said, yeah. And I was just looking to cocktail at the time because my older sister was cocktailing and she was like making really good money.
Yeah.
And I think I just was like, money, like I like money. I like having bills paid and a roof over my head, etc. Which like if you know that I, you know, moved out one of the first times when I was like 14, I was often like trying to figure that out. So yeah. But I didn't go to a strip club again, and I didn't even see the inside. I only saw like the entranceway. And like I've said, I was a much more open-minded Mormon than a lot of the Mormons, I've been exposed to here. I was, not, but I know that like the first time I went and actually saw dancers, that was a struggle for me. And that's why I feel like a lot of compassion towards people who are not really comfortable with it. And I really make an effort to try and help them feel comfortable, because it can be jarring. Have I mentioned how jarring it can be?
I don't think so. It's not ringing a bell.
Yeah. Have I mentioned that my best friend that I went with for the first time when we first went, that she was really offended and like,
Okay, yeah,
yeah, and that it took her kind of years to like feel more comfortable with the whole thing, and she did get there, and now she's perfectly comfortable, but that it was jarring for me, it was even more jarring for her. And I don't know, I like to be aware of that. I think that's why I'm even talking about the topic of shame and all that. um let's see. This one says, huh, no, that's not for that one. We could go to the questions in the anonymous one if you want.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it pulled up.
I'm having a hard time sorting through these ones.
This is along the times, this one's pertaining to when you were still in the church and stripping.
Yeah,
Did stripping and wearing garments ever cross over for you? So,
they did. And I had the weirdest sensation because I have like a very, I think stringent might be the word, bedtime routine. And I have, because I've had insomnia since I was like 5, and like really incessant insomnia. And so I know that one of the things that can help that is what's called sleep hygiene. So I have like pretty rigorous like things I do before bed to like help prepare myself like physically and mentally for sleep. And the other day I usually take a bath. That's usually part of it. I got out of the bath, and I literally, this is like 8 years after wearing garments, I had the impulse to put on my garments, like, which I don't have anymore, which I even think I destroyed the way that they're supposed to be destroyed. I don't know if you know about that, but like you're not just supposed to throw away garments.
yeah, you're supposed to throw them away a certain way.
You got to cut out the symbols and burn the symbols and then throw the rest of the garment away. And which I did, even though like I'd left the church. Sorry, I use a lot of air quotes. If you're listening and you're not watching me, air quotes are my jam. But I use, oh, sorry, not use. I disposed of them the way that you're supposed to, but that was like many, many years ago. And the other day, yeah, I like had this like, where's my garments? I need to put my garments on, because I spent a lot of years wearing garments. And that was also during times that I practiced sleep hygiene. So that was interesting. I think there might have been a little bit of crossover. I know that occasionally towards the end there, I was like wearing my garments sort of sporadically because I wanted to wear clothing that I liked. And I think because I had a lot of doubts or whatever, I'm sure it was like a whole process, but like I definitely wasn't wearing them. But I think there might have been crossover. I'm having a hard time remembering, but I think there might have been some, because there was times though where I would just wear the top or I would just wear the bottom. Um, yeah. So yeah, and I've had people say stuff about that I should wear them on stage or different things. And one time I posted on my story like a picture of garments, and I felt really bad about that. This whole episode's going to be about shame and guilt, because like I know that those are supposed to be sacred, and I can tell that part of me just wants to be respectful of other people's religions, even though I feel like it's a shitty ass cult, which isn't a very respectful thing to say. I still feel aware that I don't there's still a part of me that, like, wants to be respectful of what other people consider sacred, but that's really difficult to hold at the same time with, this is something I think is really damaging and
Exactly, yeah.
really toxic in a lot of ways, whether or not there's good there or not. But yeah, I still felt when I posted, like, there was just a picture and it was like the 10-year challenge. Did you see that? And like it showed a picture of garments
Yeah.
and then it showed a picture of lingerie. And I was like, that is too me to like
Yeah.
let this opportunity pass me by. But I did feel bad doing that. And I was on a podcast and they wanted to know my did we talk about this? My secret name, like that you get in the temple.
No.
And that was, they deal with a lot of ex-Mormons on their podcast, deal with, but that's one of the things I think they like to do I think that was cathartic for a lot of people to be like, oh yeah, this was my secret name they gave me in the temple. And I couldn't. I was like, I'll politely decline. Um, it's just hard. It's hard to find the balance between shitting on something and
Gutting it.
maybe actually honoring it for what it was
Yeah.
for you and others while also acknowledging its shortcomings. So yeah, that's my garment.
Well, I never wore them. I never got married in the temple. Um,
Ah,
yeah.
I still take a strange pride. There's like some embarrassment because a lot of the people I know who left the church now left it at like 12 when solid logic started to be a part of their thinking. And so I feel a little embarrassed because I'm like, oh, I was like 30 when I left. I was almost 30 when I left. But I also have a strange pride in like, oh, well, I went through the temple and I held a lot of callings and I taught lessons. And there's like some part of me that's like, it's like I was vegan for a year. And sometimes that comes up even now. It's kind of like one of those funny things like that you want to front door brag about. Like I still sometimes someone will talk about being vegan and occasionally I'll be like, oh yeah, I was vegan for a year. So
For a
and like
year.
there's yeah, but there's people I know that have been vegan like their whole life and I don't know why for some reason I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know what you mean.
I was Mormon for 30 years.
Exactly. There is a part of me with that exact accent in my head that is, but it did I say this to you or someone else recently?
Sorry. Hey Siri, stop. I had an alarm set.
There is this part of me that wants to brag about how dedicated I was, or like, or also it is a level of like, you think you can fuck with me? You can't fuck with me. I was Mormon till I was like 30 and now I'm a stripper. Like, how are you gonna fuck with me? I am unshakable, bitch. So I think that's part of it, is like I survived a cult until adulthood. Like, you can't shake me. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah. Surviving a cult's always good street cred.
Yeah, like serious street cred. Have you ever met people from the Lost Boys? Do you know what that is?
Like Kiefer Sutherland and Corey Feldman.
No,
No?
not the vampire movie. The young men who left polygamous colonies are
No.
called the Lost Boys because often they were treated really badly and really alienated because the younger women were wanting to be with them. normally, like any normal, situation, but the older men were wanting to be with the younger women, like the 14 plus crowd. Um, and so there's like a whole generation of, well, I'm sure several generations of men who were young. Like the guy I know, he like him and his wife, who he's still with, I last time I checked, they're like in their 50s, 60s. They left when they were both like 14 together out into the world because they wanted to be with each other and they wanted her to be, with one of the, older men in the cult. But yeah, that like broke my heart when I heard about that. I was like, that is super sad.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
this next question keeps things nice and negative. Your biggest insecurity.
Didn't we already do this?
No, this one came through today.
Oh, but we did on the first episode of this season. There
Maybe.
was like a what are you most vulnerable about or something, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, refer back to episode 1 of this season.
Refer back to episode 1, but also maybe I'll do like a short version. The question
Yeah.
is, what are you most insecure about?
Your biggest insecurity.
My biggest insecurity. I think I'm gonna pass because I feel like I already got pretty into that. And I kind of like this feeling of like, I don't have to answer questions that may make me uncomfortable. No one does. Um, or like, I think confidence is such a big part of my persona that I feel like is part of my livelihood. That's part of how I have an income that like, I feel like it's good to be vulnerable and it's good to be able to like share that with people, but it's also like, can't really spend a lot of time like ragging on myself and then expect you to come pay money to see me.
Yeah.
Or say how much I suck and then be like, listen to my podcast. But yeah,
Nothing to see here.
I
Move along.
respectfully pass. But yeah, maybe I'll answer it another time. I don't know.
I think you kind of answered this where, when talking about moderation and stuff, have you done drugs?
Yeah, I was a little hesitant to say like what I've done,
Yeah.
but I kind of don't mind today. Because like I already admitted to, occasionally partaking in the marijuana. So I kind of don't, because that's, illegal. But also I've tried microdosing mushrooms, and I'm trying to think if that's the end of list for me. I think that's the end of list for me. I don't think I've tried other drugs besides ones that are prescribed to me, or like caffeine or alcohol, which I consider mind altering. So, but yeah, I definitely know that has a lot to do with my upbringing, and not as much like I think I said this, not as much to do with like growing up Mormon as much as I was exposed to a lot of addiction at like not the normal levels.
Yeah.
Like, did I say this to you that like I was thinking this and I commented to my niece that like I've had multiple people in my immediate family homeless because of drugs. Have I told you that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's insane to me to think about.
Yeah.
So like the level of addiction I was exposed to from like a very young age really just put me off the whole thing, which can go either way. I know some people get exposed and then they like end up in that same path, and I'm not really sure what makes a difference for people. But I know being exposed young for me just terrified me and like made me feel unsafe around people and around really any kind of drug abuse. And so it's off-putting enough that I'm like, I have never tried cocaine. I've been around it a lot, obviously, and maybe I've said that like I'm in an industry that like, snort coke off a stripper's ass. Like that's
So have you seen
the
that?
dream, right?
Yeah. Have you seen that in person then?
Yeah, of course. And, that was actually it's taken me years to get to, like, a less judgmental place about drugs and kind of back to the moderation thing, be like, there's some people using things in moderation. There's some people, um, experiencing things and looking at them and going, "Where's my boundary here? Where" you know what I mean? So that's taken me a long time to, like, be more comfortable with, to the point that that's part of why I don't really dance outside of Utah is that I don't see as much of that, here. I still see some, but less, and, that makes me more comfortable. So, I feel really awkward even talking about this because I know so many people that I, like, love that are either, like, people who use drugs recreationally or deal drugs or and maybe I talked about this, I never really thought that was gonna be a part of my world, like, knowing lots of different kinds of sex workers or pimps or, like I never really thought that was gonna be part of my world, but, like, knowing all those people now and just realizing they're just people with ways that they make income, and really getting to know and loving and enjoying a lot of people with varying levels of, um, jobs and, uh, you know what I mean? Just really interesting, really interesting. But, yeah, I still am Pollyanna in the way of, like, I don't feel a strong need to participate or dabble in those kinds of things. I've seen enough, you know? And I know a lot of people in the industry and in the bar industry, just in general, who really struggle with addiction issues and mental health issues. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen enough. I'm good. I'll pass on a lot of that. I don't even like to smoke weed very much, and that's pretty mellow. That
Uh,
happens almost never.
I would like to smoke it more than I currently do. I'll just say that.
I feel like I would like to, but whenever I try to, I'm like, I don't want to try to get used to smoking marijuana because that's what a lot of people say. Oh, you just got to get used to it. I'm like, why? Why would I want to get used to something? It's kind of expensive. Like, I don't have to use it at all right now, and I'm functioning pretty well for the most part. So yeah, I'd rather not become dependent on more things than I need to. I already got my coffee and stuff, so
There you go. Well, one of my addictions is disappearing on Monday. Better Call Saul finishes this coming Monday. Super sad. Such a good show.
Aw. Yeah, TV is for sure one of my addictions. But I read a really good book once because I have kind of a fascination with addiction. It's called Quit Like a Woman. Have I talked about that book? It's really good. If you
That's
have
not
any
ringing a bell.
interest if you have any interest in, like, cutting back on your drinking or anything like that, I think it's a really good book for men or women, even though it's called Quit Like a Woman. Some really interesting information in there. But one of the things she acknowledges that I like is that, like, it's all an addiction, you know what I mean? Like, TV for sure, like, binging TV, but I think it's the awareness, and that's kind of the overall message I feel like an addiction is, like, it's having an awareness of what you're doing. Like, I know that I'm coping by watching a large amount of TV. Like, that's a first step in the direction of, well, maybe I could find other ways of coping, or maybe I need to look at myself and see what I need to work on. But yeah, like TV, oh, I love movies and TV. Like when I binge on those things, that's like I love it. But yeah, everyone's got their their things that they abuse.
The next one is this was came in like after we recorded last week. What's the stupidest thing you thought as a kid? It's a
Wow.
strange question. I've always thought of stupid things.
I continue this day to think stupid things. It was think stupid things, right?
What's the stupidest thing you thought as a kid?
I thought I could see where Santa Claus lived from my window. Like in the I thought the horizon was where Santa Claus lived. Like when I looked at the horizon, I was like, That's the North Pole. I know exactly where you are. I see you, Santa.
That's adorable.
Yeah. What's yours? Do you have one?
Gosh,
Or I've got a few, I'm sure.
I can't remember.
I lived very much in a fantasy world and continue to. Um, that's my personality. Like I'm a dreamer type of personality. So I'm sure I could write a book about the stupid things I thought about and the elaborate fantasies. I used to imagine I could replay the entire movie Labyrinth in my head during church, like scene for scene, and I would just do that. I would just replay Labyrinth, and I
Nice.
wasn't
So
bored. I was happy enjoying myself
you're
at
just over
church.
that. Awesome.
Yeah, my niece said recently, which I bring her a lot. I bring my niece up a lot. She's one of my best friends. I probably interact with her more so than I do a lot of people. But she said a comment to me recently, something like, "I love you, but you have no spatial awareness." And I think that has a lot to do with like constantly being someone who's kind of like fantasizing or like dreaming, daydreaming, and like having a really hard time having an awareness of things that are around me, which is weird because I do have a strength of awareness of people and how they feel. Like I have empathy and I pick up on that very easily without them saying anything or like, just reading the room kind of thing. But as far as like physical objects, not so much.
My
Why I'm a bad driver.
my son's kind of that way. We'll be sitting on the couch, and his feet will just start like rubbing up against me weird, and it's so he has like no, just they're like tentacles, and they have minds of their own. It's kind of weird.
That's how actually I've kind of always had that tendency. Um, like if I had a sleepover growing up, I would get really embarrassed because I would wake up and I was like wrapped around them in a cuddle. And that's like embarrassing as like, a young person to like go sleep over at someone's house and be like all over cuddling them. But I'm someone who I I can tickle or like rub someone and kind of like drift off. But that I'm kind of always seeking like a physical connection with people. And so I can very mindlessly be touching them and not realize that I am, or like cuddling them and like not realizing it. That's funny.
Speaking of cuddles, I brought Indy onto my lap.
Cute, cute, sweetest cuddles.
Say hi, Indy.
Oh,
Okay.
getting big. Wow.
Yeah, he's been that big for a while. About
So
2 years.
cute.
Yeah, he's about 2 years old. Another thing along those lines with my son is uh, sometimes he takes things too literally. So,
Yeah.
sometimes it just creates situations where you're like, how are you not understanding this?
Yeah, I have some of that too, which is so weird to me. It's very conflicting because I love sarcasm. Like, I live on sarcasm, and it's like my number one defense mechanism tool. But sometimes sarcasm is lost on me occasionally, which is really weird. But I get that. And I can take things too literally, or like you play, what's that game? Cards Against Humanity. You
Yeah,
played that?
yeah.
People know that I will pick the most logical one and that like I will develop an annoyance at when people don't do the logical one. Even though it's super funny, I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make sense. So I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, the first time we said, the term throwing somebody under the bus, he's like, why would you throw somebody under a bus?
That's so sweet.
So yeah, let's see if there's any others that we missed last time. Why doesn't my crush like me back?
Wow.
Because I don't know who you are. Reach out.
Because you're anonymous.
Because you're anonymous.
But is this like a general question for like that they want answered? Do you know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know.
Because I kind of want to answer it.
It
You're
wasn't
too
me.
available. Play
I
hard to
didn't
get.
submit this question,
In
so
fact, don't play hard to get. Just be hard to get.
yeah.
Just be so busy doing what you feel like makes you so happy or encourages your growth the most, or just so busy having fun and taking care of yourself in the healthiest ways that like you are hard to get because you're busy being fucking fantastic. I feel like that's what you need to do if your crush doesn't like you.
You
And
need,
also message them from not an anonymous site.
yeah. um,
uh,
I don't think we did this one. What time do you usually go to bed?
it's all over the place. I really try to like have a set schedule, but it's really hard because on the weekends that bedtime for me can be like 5 a.m. Sometimes earlier. I think I always try to get to bed as early as I can, but like sometimes that's just the only realistic time I can get to bed because I didn't get off till 2, and then I had to count out my money until 3, and then I had to drive home. Now that's 4, and then I needed to wind down and wash my body off, wash the stage off my body, um, and chill out for a minute with some Netflix. And that's just how it is. But yeah, it frustrates me that I can't sleep longer. Like the women I know in the industry that are like, oh, I slept till 4 p.m. today. And I'm like, I'll drag ass till 4 p.m. the next day, but I can't really sleep in that late. Like maybe I feel like noon, I can like between 10 and noon, it kind of doesn't matter when I went to sleep. I'm getting up around between 10 and noon. But I have this nifty Withings watch that like tracks my sleep, and that helps me feel a lot better about myself, even though I think I've said it. I don't think it's that accurate, but still helps me feel a type of way, which is really at the end of the day, all that matters is like if I feel okay, if I feel like I got enough sleep.
I get extremely tired if I get too much sleep. Like 6
Yeah.
hours and beyond, I'm just like dead.
Huh. Yeah, I've heard that. But I actually have like a jealousy about people that can sleep really well or wherever they want and have like easy times falling asleep and staying asleep. I get a
I,
little jealous.
I can fall asleep anywhere. Not quite narcolepsy, but sometimes.
Yeah, I've flown to China and still not slept on the plane. I can't sleep. I can't. It's funny because I actually think I can kind of doze off on a plane, but if I'm thinking about trying to sleep, there's no fucking way I'm going to sleep. And also there's something about I can't sleep publicly. Like that feels actually it feels unsafe to me. I think have I ever told you that someone kissed me on a plane while I was sleeping?
No.
I was drinking with a guy, so that was, kind of maybe not the best choice on my part. This was back when I was coming home from Germany and I fell asleep. We'd been drinking and talking and maybe flirting a little, but nothing that like I would expect to wake up to this guy's mouth on my mouth. Um, but something I'd said or done, I had made him think there was a green light to kiss me while I was sleeping. And that definitely didn't help my whole don't sleep in public thing.
Yeah.
I woke up and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, what? Like I thought it was cool. And I was like, and it was a big plane that had a lot of extra seats. And so I just said, if you don't move from this seat and sit somewhere else, I'm gonna tell the flight attendant what you did. And he was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll move. And I'm like, ugh, yeah.
So worried he thought there was any type of green light. You being unconscious.
Exactly. Like, bro, come on. But yeah, that was awkward. But yeah, I think I've got like 5 more minutes before I need to go. Should we do one more?
Yeah, I don't think there's any other ones in here, but let me review.
I can find some if you need me to.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I think we're caught up there.
Oh, I have more responses to do you feel guilty when you go to the strip club? And this one I love. Not anymore. Thanks, Satan. Let's see what else we got. There's definitely a social stigma in being a patron or the workers, performers, athletes, art. That's good because it's true. Not it's good. There shouldn't be a stigma, but I don't think we're ever going to get around that. I would love it if we do. I hope to be part of why, there's less stigma. I hope people getting to know me, helps that. But I don't see it in my lifetime being something you can do and not have stigma attached to it. I see it getting better, significantly better, but not going away. Only because I want to spend all my money, not because it's a strip club. Same. I have a lot of shame about spending money, which I've always kind of, not always, but have heard quite a bit that like being generous begets people being generous, that like kind of what you give out, you get 100-fold or something like that, right? Have you heard things like that?
Yeah, you want an ROI, so to speak.
Yeah. And I know that I've said this and I said it jokingly, but I meant it that like I feel really grateful for what people tip me. And I made a comment to someone once, he made a comment about how much money he spent. And I just was like, well, thank you so much for your generosity. And like means a lot to me. And I said, and I want you to know that the money that people spend on me, I bless that it will come back to them 100-fold. And I was like, did a little spell and a prayer. And I halfway believe it. You know what I mean? Like maybe more than halfway believe that like if you spend with that generosity of spirit, then that's coming back to you in some way. If not so even just that you're giving the message to your subconscious that you are generous and you have a plentiful life. And then your subconscious sets up things in your life to reflect that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So use moderation, but also feel good being generous. Like you're supporting, if you tip 12 girls that night, you just supported 12 local independent businesses. Like if you could think of it that way, you just help support a local business, not just the bar. The bar is also a local business, but you help support individually independent contractors. Like that's cool. Let's see.
So buy local.
Yeah. Use your local hose. That sounds bad.
Support your
don't
local
use
hose.
them, just pay them well and treat them with dignity and respect. Not at all. Being single helps as you don't have to feel guilty for what your partner may be feeling. And I hear that. I think it's hard to participate as a worker or as a patron in any way and have, partnerships because of that stigma. Even though, like I've said, like I think promiscuity, well, actually, I think promiscuity is fine, but like as for like being a cheating partner who's not being authentic with the person you're in a relationship with, that is not what I've seen in stripping. Like on either side, it happens. I've seen people, who have participated in infidelity and things like that, but like not more so than I did in other industries before I was a stripper. but because of the stigma, I think it makes it hard for the guys that work there. I think it makes it hard for the women that work there, because you can't take away the sexual element of it. And why would you want to? That's the idea. But I do wish that men in the industry understood that better, and a lot of them are very, very respectful, like very. But others I feel like aren't really aware that, like, I don't want you talking to me sexually just because I work here. Like, you're not tipping me, you work here, and you're like watching me for free and getting paid to be here and like watch everything, and like um I don't want you telling me dirty jokes, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what, and it's hard as a someone in the industry to like set boundaries in that way, because you don't want to be like the wet blanket of the crew. Um and so many of the jokes are sexually charged between everyone because the environment's sexually charged. And so it's hard because I think it's nice to have a lot of that. It's funny and enjoyable. But I would just say if you're a man in the industry, I would be a lot more aware of that. And particularly with the women that work there, like maybe go make your jokes with the dudes and maybe they like that and maybe they'll tell you they don't. I don't know. But maybe don't, like, be very thoughtful in the way you speak to sex workers. Because yeah. I forgot what brought me to that topic. Do you remember?
No. We get lost
Oh
in our
wait,
tangents,
I
which
think it
is
was
fine.
just still talking about, oh, and the partner thing. Just
Oh
that,
yeah.
like, yeah, I think it's hard to even know. I think it's been hard for people I've dated to know the way people talk to me or look at me or think of me. And part of that I'm kind of saying in all of this is like they were doing that anyways. Like they were thinking and doing all of that before I was a stripper. You know, people were saying lewd things to me or kissing me while I was asleep, or, you know, like that's, I wish that wasn't a part of my reality or what I've experienced, but it is. But it's more out there when you're dating someone in sex work. It's more out in the open for them to see and know the ways people are interacting with you. And yeah, but yeah, I would assume as a couple it's just difficult to be a patron. I think people have found ways to do it, and like I said, I think it includes a lot of honesty and a lot of open-mindedness, but I think it can be done, but it's difficult. I've been in a strip club with my boyfriend and been gotten jealous. Like, not recently, it was years ago, but someone was like ignoring me and talking to my boyfriend, and I was really annoyed. Um, and the next one says, it's so funny. Not if I bring a girl along. So they feel less guilty if they bring a girl along. And I've seen that. I've seen men bring in women and it really helped set them at ease because they're there with a woman. So I think it can go either way.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that the very next one I read is kind of the opposite of the last one. But it's different to go with a girl that's like, or a woman that's your friend versus someone you're like trying to date or in a long-term committed relationship with. Friends seem to like have a really good time, and women can really enjoy the strip club and can really like put people at ease with their presence. So, but yeah, interesting. All right, that's kind of all I have time for today. So,
Alrighty. Yeah, you're rushing off to another podcast and then you work
yep,
tonight, right?
I am. I'm gonna be on. I want to get his name right. So let me check, make sure, and maybe I'll say his profile. Um.
Oh yeah, I think he's connected with me on
Oh,
Instagram.
really?
So
He's funny, so I think he's probably a part of a lot of the comedy scene here. I don't know how to look at my messages on this computer.
The Mycon show. That
Yeah, do you think that's how you say it? I'll ask him today. I think it is pronounced Macon, but I'm gonna double check. But yeah, I'll be on that one. I don't know when that will come out, but yeah, I'm gonna go record that. I'm gonna be hoarse by the time I get to work tonight.
Okay.
All my chatting. But thanks for listening and
And,
thanks for being a part of this with me.
and always connect us with on Instagram, Molly the Stripper and Ask the Stripper. If you want to send us non-anonymous questions, send them there. Otherwise, click on the NGL link to send us stuff. And no creepy questions this week. So looks like our
Hell yeah.
message got out there. So
Yeah, it takes like repetitive communication, but people do typically tend to pick up on your boundaries with time. But it's frustrating.
anyway,
But yeah,
that's it.
thank you for respecting a boundary. I love it.
Have a good night, and until next week.
Yep. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.